Well, we know the economy is gloomy, unemployment at its peak, and the scourge of gender-based violence continues. What can we expect the president to say that will give hope to South Africans? Well, for some insight and a take on this, I'm joined by political analyst TESSA. TESSA, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. In my intro to my program this morning, I posed a couple of questions. I'm sure there's many more questions that we would ask. And the reason I'm raising this was I would like to know from you what kind of questions we should really be asking. I ask what can Ramaphosa say to rekindle real hope for the 6 million people who are unemployed? What can Ramaphosa say to rebuild waning business confidence? The numbers are telling us it's at the lowest in 3 decades. What can Ramaphosa say that will assure us that the ailing state-owned enterprises will be fixed? I mean, there's a couple of questions. But what should we be asking about the State of the Nation address?
So I think the first thing about the State of the Nation address that needs to be different from the other 3, and we must remember this is President Ramaphosa's 4th State of the Nation address. So what needs to be fundamentally different is that this needs to be a pragmatic speech. This has to be a working speech. It has to be a here is my business agenda. This is what's on my desk at the moment. This is what's been on my desk that I've cleared off my desk in the last 6 months. And this is the practical ways in which I think they will make a change. I think we've heard way too many speeches that have been about inspiration and have been about, feel-good sensibilities. And I don't think that that's what the country needs right now. It needs a president who's going to say, here are the top 5 practical steps that will be taken. Here are the top 5 things that have been done that have worked. Here are some of the things that have been done that have not worked, that we will not do again or we will change. Anything short of that is just going to be missed by the people of South Africa who are in dire need of their situation to change.
I mean, if you think about the new dawn, the Tumamina kind of feel-good thing that he gave us when he started, if you look at it, many commentators and his critics are saying it's not taking us anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a conversation last night with somebody about the Mandela presidency. And I think behind the feel-good stuff of the Mandela presidency, the thing that people actually held onto was that very, very pragmatic RDP that was released in 1994. And RDP was kind of here is a laundry list of things that government intends to do, and people held on to that. And part of the frustration with South Africans, as the Mandela presidency ended and the Mbeki presidency started, is they looked at that laundry list and went, where did all of that stuff go? So while we were feeling good, you didn't deliver on mandates. And I think we need a country that can say, these are the mandates of this president, and this is what we can hold him accountable to.
Yeah, pragmatism, practicality. I remember now the Reconstruction and Development Program. We even had a minister under Madiba. I think it was Jay Naidu. He was a minister for the RDP, and then it fizzled out into something else. And then we moved from another plan. I think there was gear at some point. It's like we've moved from plan to plan to plan. But what you are saying, tonight the president should say, guys, we've tried this, didn't work. We need to do something different. And this is where we're going to focus going forward.
Absolutely. I think one of the strong things about the last Sona was the reintroduction of the NDP. And so the president does have at his disposal a long-term plan that, number one, he was a part of crafting. And I think we forget about that, not as a deputy president. He was part of the team that was brought in from outside government to craft it. So he has that at his disposal. I think the second thing that he has is that NDP has not been ventilated very well. So there's a lot of things in there that could sound very new that are not, that are just part of the plan as it stands. But I think what's most important is not to get caught up with the hype of what's trendy right now, what's trendy this week or the next week. Yes, Eskom is a crisis. It is a big crisis, but it's not the only crisis we have when it comes to infrastructure. We have a roads crisis that's going to have a big impact on whether or not people can get their goods from place A to place B. We have a spatial inequality crisis, where we have lots of parts of this country that are underdeveloped and chronically so because of failing municipalities and failing state capacity. We have crisis when it comes to water. We've got a looming water crisis in the country, and government has been working on a water plan that they need to release to the country. So even if we just spoke about infrastructure, economic infrastructure on its own, there are many things that both the NDP has set out some pathways towards, but also has been churning in government for a while that can be released as, here are some of plans of actions that can have really direct effects on people's lives.
Do you think whatever he says, let's say he outlines some practical things, do you think we'll believe him judging by what has happened so far? Because I'm picking up a lot of cynicism and doubt. I mean, business is saying, please, action, action. Do you think he'll be believable tonight?
So I think this president is trying to manage two things. One, the capacity of the state, and two, the political environment that he's in. And I think if he pronounces on those things clearly, and I think he has to, I think he has to say something about the capability of the state, about the ways in which government has been restructured and what the benefits and the fruits of that have been under his tenure. He has to say something about the competency of the state. I know he's going to be talking about the district model, and we need to hear what is the district model actually going to do, what is it going to accomplish, is it just a new word for old things? But that's an area where he can really start to boost some confidence. So not just say this is what I want to have happen, but these are the people and the way I'm going to manage people to make sure that it does happen. On the other side, there's a political part to this. And he has to be bold. He has to be able to say things that may not be comfortable for the ANC even to hear. But he has to be able to say, as the person who is leading this party and leading this country, these are some of the bold steps I think need to be made.
You must speak as a leader of all South Africans. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Political analyst TESSA Dooms for some of those interesting insights there. We need practicality. We need pragmatism. We'll see if we're going to get that tonight.